Hello and welcome to my channel. Figured I would change things up today and film in front of my Christmas tree and the little snowman guy that I have here. This could be bad because the cats. Cookie loves the Christmas tree, so she might climb in it. I don't know, but I did not want to film in front of my bookshelves. I didn't want to be in that room anymore. Work has been busy this last week. I feel like I have not left that room at all. And I may or may not still need to pick up all of my books from my book haul that I did last week. Maybe, maybe not. So we're gonna do it in here in the living room. That's fine. You all don't mind, right? Now, this is gonna be a little chaotic wrap up for October and November. I wrote very few notes for this wrap up, so we'll see what I remember. I'm also gonna try to get through this like pretty quickly because I have, I don't even know how many books, quite a bit. And we don't wanna be here all day. And we all know that I can ramble, so I'm gonna like rapid fire through these, try to at least. We're gonna start with just regular romance, then I'll move into fantasy romance, and then I do have some historical fictions that I read as well. So we're just gonna get started. Romance, okay. So the first book that I have is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. Now, this book, I'm sure you have seen this cover everywhere, and the other books that are in the series, they're very popular because they look like cozy mysteries. The covers are absolutely adorable, but they're not cozy mysteries. They're small town spicy romances. So I had to read this one. I ended up giving it a 3-star. It was cute, kind of very Hallmark movie-esque. So our heroine, Jeannie, she inherits a pumpkin spice cafe from her, I believe it's her aunt. So she moves to this very small town in order to take over this cafe and start running it. And when she gets to the apartment that she's going to be staying in, she starts hearing these very weird noises and it kind of spooks her out. And so she enlists the help of Logan, who is the town grump. And together they try and solve this mystery about who in the world or what in the world is messing with her and her apartment. Logan does have a backstory, but this was not anything like super deep, not too emotional. It was just cute and I flew through it. So while it wasn't my favorite, it's still like, I didn't hate it. It wasn't a terrible read. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. The next book that I have is Slapshot Surprise by Melanie Harlow. This, I believe, is like book 5 in her Cherry Tree Harbor series. In this book, we are following Mabel and Joe Lupo. He is a hotshot hockey player and Mabel is from a small town and they are on a flight together and things get a little rocky and Mabel is freaking out a little bit and she tells Joe Lupo some things that she is very embarrassed about, some things that she has never told anyone else before. Well, the two of them meet again at a wedding. Yes, it's at a wedding. And they have a one-night stand, turns into more, also turns into a surprise pregnancy. I absolutely adored this book, gave it 4 stars, flew through it, loved Mabel and Joe's relationship. It was so good, so good. Melanie Harlow knocked it out of the park with this one. If you are looking for a new surprise pregnancy romance, please do yourself a favor and pick this up. And these pages, that's adorable. The next book, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember much of it. This is Brutal Husband by Lilith Vincent. We're following Nero and I think it's Rietta. I don't remember much, but what I do remember, this was crazy. So Rietta is married to this man, but then she starts learning more things about him and then someone from his past shows up and he's like, this whole time that she's married to him, when she was falling in love with him, she fell in love with one man and the way that he was. And then after they got married, it was like he completely switched and was a totally different person. And he's been very cold to her, very standoffish to her since they got married. And she's like, what happened to the man that I actually fell in love with? And so you figure that out. You figure out what happened to him, okay? And it was wild. This was a wild ride. But I remember the writing in here not really impressing me that much. So like 2.5 stars, 3 stars, just purely for like enjoyment, because I did enjoy it. It's just, it wasn't anything to like write home about at all. The next book that I read is Sunlight by Devoney Perry. I know that this is in a series. I don't remember the name of the series. I think it's book 2 in a series, but I could be wrong. Anyway, we are following Sasha and Jax. Sasha has just moved into town and she's actually going to work on the ranch that Jax, his family, used to own, but then you find out in book 1, something happens and they don't own it anymore, but he still works there and he's still very much a part of the ranch and it's every day, like how it runs. They meet, they kind of hit it off, and then she starts working on the ranch. And this is also a surprise pregnancy, accidental pregnancy. Oh, both of these books, this one and Slapshot Surprise, it just knocked it completely out of the park for me. I loved it so freaking much. Jax's backstory is, my heart just broke for him. It broke for him. And the way that Sasha just cares for him, the way that these two also handled the baby and the pregnancy and finding out, and it was just very, very mature, and I liked that. Also with Slapshot Surprise, the way that they both handled things, it was very realistic and very mature. So highly recommend both of those books if you're looking for a new like surprise pregnancy, small town, contemporary romance. Definitely pick those up. So the last romance that I read is Variation by Rebecca Yarros. This is her newest release, and this is the book that I have read the most recent, actually, I think, on this whole entire list. I'm stuck between a 3.5 and a 4-star rating for this one. I did enjoy it, but this is a long book and it felt really long to me. So we're following Allie and Hudson. Now, Allie and Hudson, they have a past and something very tragic happened that not necessarily like tore them apart, but circumstances in their lives and around that tore them apart. So at the beginning of this book, they haven't seen each other for like 10 years, maybe more, maybe less. And then Hudson actually comes back into Allie's life because his niece is very much into dancing. She wants to be a ballerina, and Allie is a very successful ballerina, but she has recently been hurt. So she is back home recovering and trying to, get back on the stage and get back to where she was and where she can dance again. So when Hudson's niece finds this out, she ends up like taking him to Allie's house, and that's how they connect again. And all of these old feelings come up and all these new reveals about things that neither one of them really knew anything about and knew the circumstances about. So it's really just about them connecting and falling in love again. So I did like it, but like I said, it was just a little slow for me at parts. So yeah, 3.5, 4 stars. I can't really figure out which one I want to rate it. Okay, now we're gonna move into fantasy romance, and I have, I think, 6 books that I read. I went through a really big fantasy romance where that was all I wanted to read for a little bit. So we're gonna start out with Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. This is a book that when it came out, because it was published indie at first, and then it was picked up by a traditional publisher and things were changed. So right around the time that I had purchased the indie book was when I found out that this was going to be picked up and it was going to be edited again. So I was like, I'm just going to wait till it comes out traditionally published. So that's what I did. That's why it's taken me so long to read this book, because I've wanted to read this book for so long because I had heard such good things about it. So in this book, we are following Eowyn and Caden. Now, Eowyn is a princess in hiding, runaway princess. Her father was not nice to her, and he is actually keeping her dragons hostage. He's holding them hostage, but she still feels this very strong connection to these dragons. And she runs across Caden one day. Now, Caden is the commander of the army that is her father's enemy, like the kingdom of, that is her father's enemy. He is the commander of that army. And they decide that they're going to work together. Caden has his motives, and Eowyn desperately wants to get her dragons back. I loved this. The pacing, beautiful banter, beautiful relationship, beautiful. I just freaking adored this book. Was it a 5-star read? No. It's a very, very high 4-star. You all know how I am with my 5-star reads, okay? I did really enjoy this though. Highly recommend it. Cannot wait for the next book. Next up, we have Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This book is making its rounds, and I fell into the hype with this book. I had to know what it was about. I wanted to see, and it did not disappoint, okay? I will say though that the first little bit of this book did take me a little bit to get through. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? But then once I actually sat down and hit the stride with it, I completely binged this book. So we are following Bryn and Acre. That's how I was saying his name. I think it's Acre. Bryn is actually from a little city called Alaha, and its people have been exiled to basically an island, the water. And they get their resources, I believe it's once a year they are allowed to go to the Kenta market once a year to replenish resources, and they have like a treaty, a peace treaty with the Kenta. So Bryn is chosen one day to actually go to this market, and it's something that is just a huge deal to the Alaha people because most of them never leave their little island. Well, she gets to Kenta and trouble happens. Trouble happens. She's being followed. She's very suspicious, and she unknowingly like breaks this peace treaty. So she ends up having to flee, and then someone comes after her to like get her in Alaha, and things go from there. I don't want to give too much away. Everyone talks about the ending in this book and the cliffhanger. I did not see it coming, and if I'm being honest, I don't think I loved the ending. Like, that's not what I loved the most about this book, because the ending to me felt like it just came out of nowhere. And I mentioned in my book haul that I want to maybe go back and reread this and see if the author left us any clues as to like this happening and leading up to it. Like, I remember stuff in the very beginning, but then I don't remember really anything after that happening, like that would lead you to the end of this book. And it kind of felt a little just out of character a little bit for the story and what happened after the market and things. I know I'm being very broad, but if you've read this book, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. I did really enjoy this though. Could not put it down while I was reading it. I really did like the romance, and the ending is crazy. I mean, while it wasn't my favorite, it's gonna make for an interesting second book, and I think a really good second book. So I am going to be continuing, and I gave this 4 stars. This next book I'm not going to talk about too much because it is book 2 in a series, and that is Storm of Secrets and Sorrow by Melissa K. Rorick. This is book 2 in the Legacy series. This one, I think I'm going to give a 4 star. I did not like this as much as book 1, and I'm a little worried about the series because I don't want it to end up in a, if you've read the From Blood and Ash series, I don't want this to end up with a like Poppy, Kieran, and Castile sort of throuple. I do not want that in the slightest. So I'm a little bit worried, but I do like the direction that other things in this book are taking. I like how dark it is. I like just, it's gritty, and I appreciate that. But again, I do not want a throuple situation. Please don't do that to me. Please, please, please. Okay. 4 stars, like I said. Okay, what do I have next? Blood and Steel by Helen Schuer. This is book 1 in the Legends of Thesmar series. This I'm giving like a 3 star. I, to be honest with you, was quite bored while reading this. We are following Thea and Wilder. Now, in this world, women are not allowed to wield swords. They cannot fight because of a prophecy that I don't remember exactly what it was, but women just are not allowed to wield swords because of this prophecy. And Thea, she learns that she has, I think, like a year or 3 years left to live. She's 27, and she's like, you know what? All I've ever wanted to do is actually train and be a warrior, but I'm not allowed to, so she's kind of been doing it in secret. So at the beginning of this book, she goes to appeal that and is like, hey, can I train? Someone train me. And that's where she meets Wilder. And their relationship was, I don't know. I think the training sequences in here, I didn't love. And then it was, I don't know. I feel like Cookie is jumping on the tree, so. Okay, I think she's done. Everything in this book was just fine. I feel like I don't really have a whole lot to like pinpoint or say about it. It was fine. It is what it is. And I hear that it does get better as the books go on. Does it? If you've read the series, let me know, because this book, kind of a letdown. Kind of a letdown. So next up, we have The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. This is book 1 in the Ashen series. This is another one that was originally indie published and then went traditional. So I got this from Book of the Month, and I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. We are following Scylla, and I'm not going to tell you who the hero is in here because I think she's going to pull a Sarah J. Maas on us, and you think she's going to end up with one guy, but then nope, she's going to end up with somebody else. And I'm here for it because I actually really like this other guy. You do get hints of that in here, like you pretty much know, but I don't want to give it away. So in the beginning of this book, Scylla's father is murdered, and she realizes that she is no longer safe in the town that she is living in. But before her father was killed, he was telling her that they were going to take a journey to this small little town where they could seek refuge and they would be safe. So once she realizes, hey, I'm not safe here anymore, I need to go, she sets out for this little journey on her own. And there she runs across a group of warriors. This is a Viking romance. And they decide to help her out if she helps them, but there are secrets being kept by everyone. That's all I'm going to say. I did really enjoy this. This is kind of sort of like slice of life fantasy, but I just enjoyed so much getting to know the characters and the world. So I didn't really mind it. Like there's not a whole lot that happens in here, like not a ton of action, but I still really enjoyed it. So yeah, 4 stars. Definitely am going to continue on in this series as well. Book 2 I know is already out. Is even book 3 out? I don't know, but I actually really liked this. And the way that this book ended. I need to know what happens in book 2. Okay, so the last fantasy romance that I'm going to talk about is City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. This book has been on my TBR for years at this point, but I was waiting for the audiobook to come out because this is a chunky book and I knew that it would be easier for me to get through if I had the audio. So I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for the audio. Plus I had heard some sort of mixed reviews, but here recently I've been seeing a lot of really good reviews on this and a lot of really good reviews on the later books in this series. So I'm like, it's time, it's time. So this book gets compared a lot to Crescent City, and I definitely see the similarities to Crescent City. So we're following Loren and Darien Castle. Now, Loren is a human and she is living in a world with all kinds of different creatures. Vampires, there are witches, werewolves, just every like magical being you could think of. She's a human and she's always sort of just been an outcast because she is a human. So at the beginning of this book, when she starts being hunted by these things called Dark Slayers, she's like, what is going on? Why do they want me? I'm just this normal human girl. I don't bring anything to the table. Why do they want me? And she's being hunted by quite a bit of them. And one of them just so happens to be Darien. Darien is the leader of the, what are they called? What are they called? 7 Devils. And he is tasked with capturing Loren for a large sum of money. But then when he actually captures her and realizes she's human, what do they want with her? He decides he's going to keep her and he's going to figure it out for himself. And things go from there. That's all I'm going to say. This, while it is very long, I feel like it was very action-packed. And I know that a lot of people really complain about Loren, the heroine in here. She is a little stubborn. She does make some stupid decisions, but I feel like she does have some growth in here and she is a little insecure about a lot of things, but you have to realize she is human in this world of people who are very strong and she's just not like everyone else. And so she has, you know, she's dealt with that her whole life. So she is insecure and that comes out while you're reading this book. But towards the end, she grows a little bit. And I enjoyed her arc. I enjoyed the relationship in here between Loren and Darien. He is very much touch her and I will kill you. Very possessive and very much like he's all in. He fights it at first, but then he's like, no, 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 no. I'm here. We're doing this. So 4 stars for this one. Another series that I am very much going to continue and looking forward to continuing. So the last few books that I'm going to talk about are historical fictions, and most of them are World War II because again, that's just what I'm feeling right now, okay? So the first one that I have is The Paris Daughter by Kristen Harmel. Now this is set in Paris and we follow 2 women as they become mothers. And then when the war starts and tragedy strikes, you follow the aftermath of these 2 mothers in their lives. One of them seemingly comes out with kind of everything, you know, sort of as much kind of unscathed as a war can leave you. And then one has lost everything. I really enjoyed this book. I very much though predicted what was going on. I don't want to say too much, but I don't think it was, I don't know. I think it was supposed to be this bigger reveal, but I connected the dots way early on. So I didn't love that, but I did love this story and how it ended. So I gave this one 4 stars. The next one that I actually read is not a World War II historical fiction. It is a time travel romance. This is What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon. This one is set in 1921 in Ireland. This book, I wanted to love this one more than I did. So our heroine in here, she was very, very close to her grandfather, and her grandfather would always tell her of, you know, times when he was younger and he lived in Ireland. He ends up passing in the beginning of this book, and she wants to feel closer to him, so she decides to go to Ireland, but she ends up going back in time, and she sees her grandfather when he is a young boy, and Ireland is on the brink of war, and she's kind of thrust in the middle of all of this. It was good, but I feel like it just felt a little too long for me. Just a little bit too long. So this one I'm gonna give a 3.5 star. I do love Amy Harmon. It's just, I don't know, I wanted to like this one. And I do really love time travel, so this one was a letdown, but I don't know, it didn't give me what I wanted it to give me. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about in this wrap up is The Book of Lost Names by Kristen Harmel. Again, she is an author that I have been trying to just read more of. She's a very popular World War II historical fiction author, at least from the books that I've seen, it's very World War II heavy. So in this book, we are following, I think her name is Eva. Yeah, Eva. She's living with her parents in Paris, and she is Jewish. Well, she finds out from a friend one night that the Nazis are coming to round up the Jews. She tries to tell her parents, but they won't listen to her. Eva ends up getting away, her and her mother, but her father is taken. So Eva and her mother end up fleeing to this very small mountain town that is in the free zone. And there she discovers the underground workings of the people who are trying to help save Jewish people from the Nazis. And she actually ends up forging documents to get children over the border to Switzerland. And she meets Remy, who is also a forger, and it is their love story. And it is Eva, really just Eva's story, but also her and Remy's story. The romance in here is, I would say, very much a big deal, but I could not stop reading this book. I needed to know what was going to happen with Eva. I needed to know what was going to happen with Remy, because he very much puts himself in danger quite a lot. And Eva's mother, they had this very turbulent relationship. Her mother blamed Eva for a lot of the things that happened to them and a lot of the things that happened to her father. And just the way that this ended, I think it just wrapped up so well. So I highly recommend this one, especially if you are a romance reader looking to get into historical fiction. This is a really, really good place to start. So I gave this one 4 stars as well. Okay, so those are all of the books that I have read in October and November. If you have made it to this point in the video and you'd like to let me know, leave me a Christmas tree or a snowman emoji in the comments down below. Also, if you want to give me a little bit more, give me your favorite book that you read either in October or November. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.